Once upon a time, in a kingdom filled with laughter and song, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Cinderella. She had the brightest smile in the land and a heart full of dreams. But Cinderella's life was not always easy. After her dear mother passed away, her father remarried a stern woman with 2 daughters, Anastasia and Drizella, who were as unpleasant as their mother. Cinderella's father hoped for happiness, but sadly he too passed away, leaving Cinderella in the care of her stepmother. From that day, Cinderella's life changed. She was made to do all the housework, from sweeping the floors to cooking meals, while her step-family lived in comfort. But Cinderella never lost hope. She made friends with the animals in the house. They loved Cinderella for her kindness and helped her with her chores. One sunny morning, as Cinderella hummed a cheerful tune while cleaning, an announcement echoed throughout the kingdom. The king was throwing a grand ball. His son, the prince, was to find a bride, and every eligible maiden was invited. Cinderella's heart fluttered with excitement.
A ball! I've always dreamed of going to a ball!
Her stepmother smirked.
You, Cinderella, attending the ball? Don't be silly. You have no dress and you'd be too busy with your chores anyway.
Cinderella's heart sank, but she still dared to dream. In a twist of fate, Cinderella's animal friends decided to surprise her. While she was away doing errands, they gathered materials and began to make a dress. They worked tirelessly, stitching and sewing with all their might. When Cinderella returned, she couldn't believe her eyes. There, in the midst of her friends, was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen.
For me?
She gasped, tears of joy in her eyes. However, her happiness was short-lived. Anastasia and Drizella, green with envy, tore the dress apart, leaving Cinderella in tatters. Heartbroken, Cinderella ran into the garden, her dreams shattered like glass. As she wept under the moonlight, a gentle voice spoke.
"Dry your tears, child. You shall go to the ball."
Startled, Cinderella looked up to find a kind old woman with a twinkling eye. It was her fairy godmother. With a wave of her magical wand and a cheerful
Hocus pocus,
the fairy godmother transformed Cinderella's torn dress into a gown of shimmering blue, more beautiful than the night sky. Then she turned a pumpkin into a splendid carriage, mice into horses, and even gave Cinderella a pair of glass slippers, the most elegant shoes in all the lands.
"Remember, dear, this magic will only last until midnight,"
warned the fairy godmother.
"After that, everything will return to normal."
Cinderella, overwhelmed with gratitude, promised to remember and hurried off to the ball. As she entered the grand palace, everyone turned to gaze at her. She was the most beautiful maiden there. Even her stepmother and stepsisters didn't recognize her. The prince, struck by her beauty and grace, asked her to dance. They twirled and swayed through the night, lost in each other's eyes. Cinderella felt like she was in a dream, a wonderful dream she never wanted to end. But as the clock began to strike midnight, Cinderella remembered the fairy godmother's warning. With a heart full of thanks for the most magical night, she hurried away, leaving the prince and the astonished crowd behind. As she fled, one of her glass slippers slipped off her foot, but she had no time to retrieve it. Cinderella reached her carriage just as the clock struck 12. In a flurry of magic, her gown turned back into rags, the carriage into a pumpkin, and the horses into mice. But her heart was full of joy and love from the wonderful night she had experienced. The next day, the kingdom was abuzz with news of the mysterious maiden who had stolen the prince's heart. The prince, determined to find her, declared that he would marry the maiden whose foot fit the glass slipper left behind. Soon, the prince's messengers arrived at Cinderella's home. Anastasia and Drizella tried the slipper, but their feet were too big. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, Cinderella shyly asked if she might try the slipper. Her stepmother laughed, but the messenger nodded. to everyone's amazement, the slipper fit Cinderella perfectly. Just then, her fairy godmother appeared and, with a wave of her wand, transformed Cinderella back into the beautiful maiden from the ball. The prince, who had followed his messengers, knew at once that he had found his true love. Cinderella and the prince looked into each other's eyes, and everyone could see they were meant to be together. The wedding was grander than any the kingdom had ever seen. Cinderella's kindness and beauty shone brightly, and the kingdom rejoiced in their prince's choice of bride. Her stepfamily, humbled by her fortune and the kindness she still showed them, begged for her forgiveness. Cinderella, with her ever-gentle heart, forgave them, and they too found joy in the new, kinder paths their lives took. Cinderella and the prince lived a long, happy life, filled with the same love and joy they felt on the night they first danced. Her story became a beacon of hope, teaching generations that kindness, courage, and a believing heart can change one's fate. And so, in a kingdom where dreams came true, Cinderella's dream was the most wonderful of all. For in the end, it was not the magic that made her story, but her loving heart, her unwavering hope, and the courage to dream. The end.